I had the nice car, the like champagne receptions, but yet it wasn't really what I wanted. Going to India was just like a crazy eye-opening experience. Nobody there was trying to get what I was trying to get, but yet they had what I wanted. Everyone's out there searching for motivation and inspiration, but I don't think it means anything without discipline. This is really changing my whole day just from this 1 minute. It's probably the single most best decision I made last year.
So we are back with the guest episodes of Happy Days with me, Callum Church. Today I'm joined by Matt Swain. Now, you guys don't quite know Matt, but over the last few months or so, I've gotten to know him. And this has been an episode I've been really looking forward to, and I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. So to kick us off, Matt, do you want to just quickly introduce yourself to the guests and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so hey everyone, I'm Matt, I'm 23, I'm London based, and I'm currently writing my own book called Breaking Free. I also have my own like consultancy services, so I help clients on all things like content, social media, marketing, that kind of thing. And I also share my ideas and thoughts online on my blog. So that's kind of like what I'm up to at the minute.
Sweet, man. And obviously I know you pretty well personally at the moment, so I know that you've gone through a really interesting journey, and you've got a lot of interesting stuff to talk about. Like, genuinely, I'm not blowing smoke enough, and you're a really interesting guy. And every time that we sit down and chat, it's always an interesting one, which is why I was so excited to get you on the podcast today. Do you want to just take us through that journey for us, for the listeners that haven't heard it, and for me again, because it's nice to hear. Do you want to just take us through that journey that you've been through?
Yeah, for sure. So I guess like it starts when I was around like 14, 15, and I kind of like naturally became quite good at academic stuff. So my exam grades were quite good, and I naturally found like a good feel for that. And over the course of my like formal education, like 14 through to 18, like that gradually became a more important part of my life. But then basically my whole self-worth and identity became my academic worth. And suddenly my grades were like everything, and everything else around my life like disappeared. And I kind of didn't realize this at the time. I had like my blinkers in place. I was just like going all at it. But yeah, I guess then when it came to 18 and I had to make a decision about what I would then do with my life going from like education, I felt this like strong kind of force from around me that was like pushing me to transform this academic success, I guess, into a thriving corporate career and to get all of the like money and status and success that came alongside that. And so I basically took a job at a like big corporate firm and like set off into the corporate world. And I guess like I got the life that I thought I wanted. I had the nice car, the like champagne receptions. I was like going to big clients with senior leaders and sitting in like pivotal meetings. But yet it wasn't really what I wanted. Like I thought it was, but it never really happened like that. And so, yeah, I feel like I've been on this like self-development journey where I was like trying to understand why on the outside my life looked great. I had all of the stuff I wanted, but on the inside I was like wounded and like didn't really have what I wanted. So yeah.
Yeah. So what sort of life philosophies have you taken away from that? Because I know that you're big into your life philosophies, as am I. So do you want to just take us through some of the things that you've sort of taken away from that journey in particular, and some of the things which you live your life by now?
Yeah, for sure. Like I think the big one is this transition from playing a finite game into an infinite one. So by what I mean by that is a lot of us are playing these finite games that we're only doing something to get something else. So I may work in my job for 20 years so that I can buy a house and retire. And really what you're doing there is you're kind of like sacrificing the 20 years just to get that end goal of the house or that like retirement in your dreams. And what I try and do now is play an infinite game. So what I'm focused on doing is thinking about what do I want to do? Who do I want to do it with? And how can I do that for as long as I possibly can? And so I don't really have an end goal. There's no like finishing line. It's just this one continuous journey. And it feels kind of weird. Like people get confused by it because suddenly you're not aiming for this retirement or, you know, buying a house, which a lot of people structure their whole lives around. But for me, it's given me the freedom to explore like what I'm actually interested in. And yeah, I've just found that to be like a really pivotal like change in mindset, I guess.
100%. I mean, that's such a good point, right? Because I feel like that whole finite game and infinite game, the way I sort of imagine it, it's almost like everyone's trying to play Mario Bros or something like that, where it's like, go to this world, do this, get to the end of the level, and like, well, who you save, Princess Peach or whatever. But really, we're playing like a sandbox kind of like exploration game where you get to do whatever the hell you want. You get to explore and all these kinds of things. People think that we have to live our lives by structure, i.e., get good grades, go to uni, get a good job or whatever the hell that means, and then get married, have kids, have a house and all these sorts of things, and then eventually try and save up as much money as you can until you retire around 60, But really, I mean, who set those rules, right? Who set those rules? And so many people out there getting so stressed and overwhelmed by, not having the grades, not having the job, not having a house by 25, not having kids by 28 or whatever it is. And it's like, why are we getting stressed for this? It's because of some made up rules that apparently society's made for us. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love the Mario analogy. Like, I really feel that a lot of people probably do feel quite trapped in that game where it's just like desperately trying to get to that next level, but it never feels good enough. And so you're always trying to like make your way through these worlds. But as I say, each one leaves you with that same disappointment. And I think, the whole idea is to get out the game completely, where you're not playing the Mario game for the levels, the next rung of the ladder. You're playing this just like one long line, basically, which is just a completely different idea.
One of the things which I actually love about you is the fact that you offer such a different perspective to the norm. You talk about this breaking free from the game kind of idea. Not enough people are switched on to that. Not enough people are thinking about or even understanding that they need to break free from the game. So where's that shift in perspective come from? Is there something along your journey which sort of helped you to switch on to that and ultimately shift your mindset?
Yeah, I think there's probably like several moments across kind of like the span of a few years, but one that particularly stands out in my memory is going to India, which I did maybe like 6 months after I started out in the corporate world. And going to India was just like a crazy eye-opening experience. I was so used to the kind of glossy skyscrapers in London, all of the like white walls, the air conditioning, all of the kind of comfort. When I went to India, it was just like the polar opposite. It was chaotic, it was busy, but it was energetic and it was magical. And, throughout all of my kind of time traveling India and speaking to people there, I quickly realized that nobody there was trying to get what I was trying to get. They weren't out there with the aim of trying to get a fancy helicopter and a, particular job title. But yet they had what I wanted, which was this like peace, this contentment, this kind of gracious purposefulness with their days. And so, I kind of came to realize, wait a minute, no one here is trying to do the things that I'm doing. They're not chasing the things that I'm chasing, but yet they have what I have, yet they have what I want. So for me, that was like the start of that, shift in perspective, that like first inclination that, okay, maybe what I'm chasing isn't really what I'm actually after, what like I truly, truly want.
Yeah. Where's that peace and contentment come from, do you think? If people living in India who have much less materially than you in terms of a materialistic perspective, how do they have that peace and contentment?
Yeah, I think they probably have a much more like focused presence on living the day for like the day itself. Whereas I think we often go through our days, let's say like here in the Western world, we're like ticking things off our to-do list, and like that's what makes a good day. Or we have very like structured, very particular things that we want to do, and like ultimately all of those things are there to help us in the future. Whereas I think India is much more focused on like, okay, well, how do we live today? Like, what do I want to do today?
But you know what that is? They're playing the sandbox game. They're playing the open world game where they're out and exploring. They're just living life for what it is. Whereas we're sat here, we've literally got every single day. We've got a whole world on our notepads, and we've got level 1, level 2, level 3, whether that be, check your emails, get that done, respond to your DMs, get that done, send this invoice, get that done, or whatever it is. We're sat there playing the Mario levels over here in the Western world, and all the Indians, they're playing the sandbox game and just enjoying life. It's kind of ties in quite nicely.
Yeah, and it's a completely different like mindset. And it's much harder to do here, I think, because there are so many people that are like trying to progress and chase and go up the ladder. But if you can like slightly shift your mindset and start to realize that I don't actually need to keep doing all of this stuff, like what's the point of it? Then I think you can get closer to that like peace and contentment that, as I say, in India, it's very much like apparent that that's there.
Is there anything that you do to try and connect to that, to try and connect to the day as it is, you know, or try and connect to that peace and contentment that you're after?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, one of the great things to do is just go for a walk, you know, in nature, no headphones, no phone, just like go for a walk. And I think that really slows you down. It's super easy to do. And yeah, I found that to be really useful, but also traveling as well. Like I think traveling and realizing that there are these different ways of living, that you can create a life very, very different to the ones that, you know, we've grown up around here. I think that's a really eye-opening, you know, worthwhile experience to gain when that's possible, obviously.
Yeah, I'm absolutely gutted that Bali's been shut for the most recently, because I was trying to get out there, as you know, and as many of the listeners know, actually, I've been trying to get out to Bali for a bit, but it doesn't look like it's happening. So I might have to plan a spontaneous trip or something. I don't know. It's frustrating, but
Yeah,
maybe I just need to get rid of the plans, get rid of the script, and you know, just throw myself
jump on a
into
flight.
something. Yeah, 100%. So Matt, you've been recently, for the past 6 months or so, you've been part of Steven Bartlett's personal team, haven't you? Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I had the like crazy and surreal opportunity to be part of Steven Bartlett's like personal team. It was like a huge learning curve, but an incredible like immersive insight into all things podcasts, social media, content, marketing, entrepreneurialism, business, like you name it. It was crazy. And yeah, like learned so much from obviously my time with him and working with him. So yeah, like I don't know, I can go into like a few key learnings that will hopefully be like interesting. So like the first one I'd say is the ability to be agile and the ability to make things happen like way quicker than you could imagine. So for example, like you can take an idea and then convert that into action and outcome like that same day or like that week. And I think like being around Stephen and seeing the scale and like magnitude and like number of times that he was able to turn this like idea into this end product like so quickly has made it so easy for me to implement it into my own life, because I've just seen like, you know, how quickly things can be done. So like that was like yeah, like crazy to see. And yeah, as I say, I now try and like use that all the time.
Do you think that's partly down to, do you think that's like a mindset thing? You know, just simply thinking you can turn it around that quick, so you do get it around that quick? Because I think a lot of people put sort of like mental barriers on. You know, they think, oh, I can't start a podcast, or I can't do this or that, which we'll get onto later in this episode, I think. But is that more of a mindset thing, do you think?
I think so. Yeah, I think if you apply this real like sense of urgency and really believe that you can like turn things around quickly, then you can do it. And yeah, I don't know, like I found it in my own life as well. There are certain things I was like woke up and was like, look, I want to do this, and like the next day it's like actioned. And yeah, I don't know, it really changes the game, because suddenly something that would have taken like 2 months, you can squish into 2 days. And then like, wow, like what an advantage that gives you, and just like how much quicker you can achieve like what you actually want to.
How do you get that? Is that pure focus then, or is that a method, outsourcing type thing? How do you manage that?
Yeah, I think it's just knowing like what to do, knowing like who to contact, knowing what to research, and just having this like clear set of like steps. Like, okay, first step, do this, second step, do that. I guess it like depends on exactly what the aim is, but yeah, ultimately you can like get things done way quicker than you could ever think. If you apply that to like things in your own life, then you're going to be able to get results, you know, and move things along much quicker than you could, you know, probably imagine.
What else have you picked up? Because I imagine you picked up tons in that 6 months. I mean, that's got to be such a pretty life-changing period of time, right?
Yeah, for sure. And like I think a lot of it was just like you know, immersed in that experience and like absorbing it all. It's kind of like ended up like molding my psyche, as it were. And so a lot of it's like embedded in just everything in terms of how I approach things, my attitude, how I think. But another like particular thing is, being involved with the podcast, which is obviously a very like intimate and in-depth conversation, I am now able to go and have conversations with people like I've never met before, that are like really engaging, really deep, and I've made like lifelong friends out of that. And so it's been a really rewarding, to basically pick up the skill of having those in-depth conversations about life and meaning and all of that kind of deep stuff. And it's a skill that I don't think anyone's talking about. I didn't realize that I needed the skill to like be able to hold like a 4 hour long, deep, like intimate conversation. But yeah, I'm now able to do that. And I think like being involved with the podcast and stuff allowed me to see firsthand, from the best how to do that basically.
It's funny how easily you can connect with someone when you actually have a deep and meaningful conversation. Like I feel like so many people, especially around our age, are sort of like, oh, hey, who are you? What do you do then? And there's all such like surface level shit. But when you actually sit down and have like a real deep conversation about meaning, about what people want, about goals or aspirations, or about all these kinds of things, like you just connect with them on a different level. And honestly, I've made so many friends through just doing this podcast, just from sitting down with someone for like an hour and just talking about shit that actually matters to me and to the other person. And then if you feel like your mates, genuinely, I've actually had someone move down to where I live, and now we literally see each other every single day. We do sea dips every day. We go to the gym every day, and he's like my best mate now. I met him through the podcast. It's crazy.
Yeah, and like that's it. It's like, as I say, it's a skill that almost is like this hidden secret where if you are able to connect on that deeper level and have those like really interesting, engaging conversations, then like, yeah, it's just like amazing the benefits that can come as a result of that.
Yeah, it's also like a level of sort of like being yourself as well. I think it like having that conversation brings about a certain level of like authenticity and that kind of thing, because you can't fake those conversations. I don't think you can fake those conversations. And I think when you really like converse with someone on a true authentic level, coming from what really matters to you and what you care about, you just connect so much more deeper than pretending to be someone you're not. And that's where confidence comes from, is actually truly being who you are, talking about you, what you care about, what's deep and meaningful to you, and it shows. I think people get a vibe for that.
But it's also that like confidence in being vulnerable as well, and being prepared to like say stuff that you're putting out a lot of like, I don't know, emotional backstory or whatever it is, and just being like prepared to do that with someone that you've never met. But as I say, like, I think the benefits of doing so are huge, and it's something that you can learn and develop. It's a skill that can be practiced to do that. But yeah, it's one that I'm just so pleased that I've like picked up and now like action basically.
100%. So now you're sort of moving on. You're in a transitional period of your life now. I think you're moving on to a few different couple of projects and couple of things you've got going on. So how did that kind of lead into that? Do you want to share first of all what you'll be doing now, but second of all how that sort of leaded towards that? How did you get that sort of idea to pick those things up?
Yeah, so in terms of like moving forwards, basically there was a few key things that were like driving those decisions. The first one being that I wanted to make a step forwards. I wanted to like take a risk. It had been very easy for me to go and take a safe job somewhere like full time in a creative role, to go back into the corporate world. But I wanted to, as I say, move forwards, which I feel was in a way quite hard to do, because I was like worked in a big firm in the corporate world, then like transitioned to the social media marketing world and was with like, arguably one of the best in the space. And so I was like, how am I going to move forwards now? And that was like the key thing for me. I think that the other key thing was, I was like, I really want to really have a lot of freedom over my time. I was like, I want to be able to do the things I want to do when I want to do them. And so how can I create a life in which is like based around this freedom, that I have the autonomy and the, like basically I have the autonomy to do what I want with my time. And that's ultimately like what was the driving force in making those decisions. And so what I'm now doing is I am a like creative and strategy consultant. So my main client is a really cool tech startup in the creator economy space that are helping small creators monetize their content much more easily, and also trying to be like a a driving force for really purposeful, nutritious creators that really add value to your mind instead of the kind of social media kind of garbage that often detracts from it. So obviously that's like a mission and an aim that I'm really behind, and the team is really like supportive, and so it's amazing to have the opportunity to work with them. And then I'm also working on my book, really like stepping that up. So I have a book coach, a book editor, and I'm really going through the process of really like honing in on the messages, really refining the writing, and trying to get those pages as good as they possibly can be, which is a long iterative process, but really rewarding. Like I feel so lucky that I get to, work on my book each and every week and get to like dedicate time to that. So, so yeah, that's kind of like, I guess, like the overview of what I'm up to now.
Before we jump into those two things a little bit deeper, how did you, I just wanted to ask, how did you sort of find the courage and the confidence to be able to throw yourself into that risk? Or did you have the confidence at all? Or was it more of a do, think later thing? Do first, think later?
Yeah, I think I just really had like a strong set of principles that I was working off, which was that fact that I was like, okay, I want to make sure that I'm moving forwards. And so it's like, how do I move forwards? Well, I'm going to have to take some risk. I'm going to have some short-term uncertainty. And I was just so strong on the fact that I was like, I really want to take a step forwards now and really like project into this future. That the risk kind of wasn't even a consideration because those principles were strong. And the other one, just having that freedom over my time, that if I knew I wanted that freedom over my time, I knew that there would be some kind of payoff, some kind of sacrifice. And again, like that's the risk and the uncertainty of it all. But for me, the trade-off makes sense. As in, freedom over my time is more valuable than taking on a little bit of extra risk. So yeah, I guess like really strong principle-based thinking got me there.
Awesome, dude. No, it's good. It's good. So consulting, what made you want to get into that?
A whole host of things, really. I think I had some experience from my previous corporate life that I thought would be able to be added into all of my learnings at Steve and basically like applied it to. And yeah, there's like loads of interesting businesses doing loads of interesting stuff. And I really wanted to make my mark on them in like any way that I can. And it just felt like the natural like thing to do, as I say, like that natural step forwards in terms of like working for myself, setting up my own business, and yeah, basically running straight into that. And I thought it'd be a great way to build on my skills, to develop them further, to meet lots of interesting people. And yeah, I don't know, it's just been really rewarding so far.
Well, I'm excited for you, man. I genuinely am actually quite excited for you, because it's such a it is a risk, but I think you'll get the best things from that. And it's just a really exciting new period for your life, I think, so that's awesome. The book, do you want to talk a little bit more in depth about the book? What's the book about, and why did you want to write a book? Why would you want to take on such a mammoth task like that? Because I don't know if I'll be able to handle it.
Yeah, it's a big task. It's really hard. It's very, very like intellectually stimulating for me, which is great. Like you face like, I don't know, an idea for a chapter, and you're like, how am I going to make this work? And it's genuinely very, very difficult. But for me, that's what makes it so worthwhile. It's so challenging, and the challenge is so intrinsic to me that it's incredibly like fulfilling. And so yeah, I absolutely love the fact that it's hard. That's almost like a key reason why I enjoy it so much. But yeah, the book is called Breaking Free. That's like the current working title, and it's all about like escaping who I was meant to be and becoming who I am. So it follows like certain things in my life through that I've kind of learned, and yeah, it's really like an in-depth, introspective view of my life. And why I wanted to write it was kind of for that reason. I wanted to have this like massive therapy session in a way in terms of writing it. And I wanted to find out like the truth of life, the truth of my own experiences for myself. And I thought like that a book was a great way to do that. So I'm writing the book for me because I want to get to those answers and get to that truth. And I'm hoping that like sharing it into the world will help other people. Even if it just helps one person in one way, then I'll be happy. But yeah, I guess that's why. But yeah, it's very difficult.
Yeah, it's so cool though, man. It's honestly so cool. And I think when you're sort of tackling philosophical questions and big questions about life and you, who you are, finding who you are, I mean, that must have you must have seen a lot of change in yourself. Have you seen a lot of change in yourself over that period at all, or anything you've realized about yourself since writing?
Yeah, I guess like your ideas become slightly more clearer, like things
Mm,
clarify in your head, and that like clarification process allows you to let go of certain things and allows you to really like refine and focus on what's important.
mm,
And it enables you to like move forwards without looking back, I think. So like the book is almost this like look back, then I can go, right, I'm strong on what I've been through, I'm strong on the truths, and now like I can go forwards into the future like happy with the decisions that I'm making and the like philosophies that I kind of believe in.
mm,
Because like as I say, I've like worked hard on my introspection and like level of thinking basically towards those.
mm, Awesome, man. Speaking of books, you're a big reader. You know, I've already forgotten how many books it is you read in a year. How many is it? It's over 100, right?
Yeah, so like I've done 150 in the last 18 months or so. So yeah, a lot of books, I guess.
It's crazy. How do you? First of all, why read so much? Why is reading so important to you?
I think for me, like why I started reading was I found this real intrinsic love for reading. You know, I think a lot of people go out to read a lot because they're told in their self-development advice to read. They're told that like it's the habit of like one of the 7 habits of millionaires. You know, I don't really buy into that. I think like sure that is the case, but I read because I intrinsically like to read, and it would
Mm,
be near impossible to read that many books if you didn't really enjoy it, right?
mm,
So yeah, for me, it's like this intrinsic love, but it's allowed me to like learn a lot about myself. It's allowed me to learn about lots of interesting topics. It's allowed me to have time away from screens because obviously books
mm,
is like one of the few things you can do without screens. I've built up a lot of focus in terms of being able to like sit and focus and read for an hour like distraction free. So yeah, it's helped me in all kinds of ways, but yeah, it all stemmed from that like intrinsic love for it.
And that point on time away from screens is such like an underrated one. I always feel like a bit of a Karen every time that I'd say, "Oh, you shouldn't look at your screens too much" and that kind of thing. But it's so true. Like when we're so overstimulated by screens, everything's on a screen these days. You know, it's like your work's on a screen, your food delivery's on a screen, your social media's on a screen, your messaging's on a screen, your entertainment's on a screen. Everything's on a screen. When you're constantly looking at these screens, you just become so overstimulated. And you're right. You know, you say that you've built up a level of focus, but I think you've probably just retained a level of focus, whereas other people have lost it because they're constantly being so stimulated. You know, think about TikTok is like it's a few seconds of video and it's like done. A few seconds of video, done. You know, and it's just I think when you start reading, I think you retain that ability to actually sit in silence. It's almost like meditation in a way. I mean, it's not, but it's a similar thing in which you kind of take a moment to switch off somewhat, or switch off one part of your brain at least. And you're right, it helps you stay so much more focused and so much more productive as well, man. So much more productive for me, anyway.
There's like real power in being able to just like sit there and read for like an hour without like
Mm,
checking your phone. And to start with, it's hard, but like as I say, you can practice it, you can keep going, and
mm,
yeah, it's manageable to have like that focused, dedicated time reading. And I don't think there's many things that you can do that builds up that focus quite as easily as reading. So as if
mm.
in order to build focus or like retain that level of focus that I guess we once had, then reading is like the perfect way to do that.
Some people call reading like exercise for the brain, which I do think it is, but some people, I think it's a lot deeper than that as well. You know, people say it's exercise for the brain in terms of, you know, you can grow your knowledge and that sort of thing. It also just trains your brain to be using it a little bit more properly. You know, using it in a at a pace which is a little bit more slower to everyday life and that kind of thing. Um, so what sort of stuff are you reading at the moment? What sort of range of topics and genres are you into?
Yes, I guess like to start with, my journey's kind of started on like self-development type non-fiction books,
Mm,
a lot of the like standard ones, and it's really diversified, especially recently. I'm now reading as diversely as I can. So I'm basically like, I want to read stuff that I would never ever read. And I look at a book and go, I would never read this. Therefore, it's the
mm,
perfect book for me to read. So I'm talking like classics, I'm talking like fiction, psychological thrillers, sports biographies, like as widely as I can, really, because firstly, it will build and improve my reading ability. And second of all, it will help with my writing. So I get this like, it's really important for me to read as diversely as possible and to read as much as I can, because there's like this knock-on effect that it helps me with so many other things that I also want to improve. So it's like the perfect way to do that.
Yeah, and I think people put themselves in such a cage when they just stick to what they know or what they think they're interested in. Something which kind of launched my sort of self-development journey, or certainly put on the afterburners a little bit, was when I picked up a Stoic philosophy book. I picked up a book by Seneca. And God knows why I picked it up. I do not know. There was just some vibe about it. Call it God's telling me to go pick up that book. Call it my guardian angel or something, or just my intuition. But yeah, there was something about this book, so I read it. I read the back and stuff, and I thought, yeah, I'll give this a go. So I bought it, took it out on holiday with me, read it over the week that I was on holiday. And I fell in love with it, fell in love with philosophy, fell in love with self-development, fell in love with self-analysis. And then as a result of that, just fell in love with improving myself and fell in love with reading,
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, I can definitely relate to that story. It was something similar to me, where it's just that start of the self-development journey, really.
Yeah. So how has reading and study sort of changed you as a person, other than becoming more focused and sort of training your mind? Has it changed you in any other ways? I mean, you mentioned that it's helped you to become a better writer as well.
Yeah, it definitely improves my writing a lot. And I can definitely find that when I read less, I lack the inspiration and the stuff kind of to write. And yeah, I don't know. I think I understand myself better. I'm not quite sure if I can like articulate exactly why, but I don't know. I think like reading lots just allows you to like just think about things that maybe you wouldn't have thought of before and bring up new ideas. And the way that it's written from like all kinds of different perspectives and insights, that you build up this, like self-reflection through the reading. So yeah, it's definitely helped me like understand myself better as well.
Yeah, and that self-reflection and diversifying your reading as well. As I mentioned earlier, it kind of helps you to break out of cages and stuff like that, and actually help you get started on things which you might have never started before. Is to break through that barrier, which is also something which is important to you. I know this was something you wanted to talk about. So increasing your odds, and increasing your odds of success and such. Do you want to explain just for a minute what you mean by that?
Yeah, for sure. So I think in kind of culture today, there are a lot of people that want to guarantee that future outcome. They don't want to start something. They don't want to do it unless they know that they're going to get this future thing. So a few examples of this might be, you're not going to start up the business that you want to start because you're not sure if it's going to make £1 million, or like you're not going to put yourself out there online because you're not sure if it's going to result in job opportunities or like interesting stuff happening. And like you may not like go to the gym because you're not sure if it's going to lead to long-term health benefits. But for me, that doesn't matter. Like, I'm not interested in guaranteeing this future outcome. What I'm interested in is focusing on what I can do and taking all of the control back to me and going, how can I increase my odds of all of this good stuff happening? I'm not interested in whether I can guarantee this future outcome. I'm just going to give myself the best chance possible that will happen. So for me, like, I'm interested in like longevity and like, I want to live for a long time. And so I don't know, something may happen, but I'm going to go to the gym, sleep well, run, and look after my diet and do everything I can to give myself the best chance. And so yeah, I think there's this huge reluctance to try anything, to do anything, because there's a chance that it may not happen. But that doesn't matter. You should still go ahead and do it and just do everything in your power that you can to to give yourself the best odds of that happening.
Yeah, and people are just they're so keen on staying comfortable and keeping within their cushy lives and their cushy comfort zones that they never actually break out and experience anything new. Because if you want anything more in your life, if you want to experience anything new in your life, say you want to make £1 million, let's say you want to find new and better friends, let's say you want to do anything, you have to actually step out of that comfort zone to find that. Because if it was within your comfort zone, within your typical sort of like living boundaries, you would already have it in your life,
Yeah, no, exactly. And like, I find that everybody wants to change their life, but so few are willing to take the initiative, to take the risk, take the leap, try anything different. And it's like, in order to change your life, you're going to have to change things in your life. It sounds so obvious, but yet people are so unwilling to accept that kind of like fundamental truth.
How do you take the leap? Is that just another do first and think later kind of thing, do you think?
I think like starting is the hardest part of that change. Starting is the most challenging part of that journey. And there's a lot of like hurdles, I guess, that people create in their heads of, before they start, which basically prevents them from ever starting. And like when I started my blog, for example, there were millions of other blogs in the world, right? Millions of other blogs, but I didn't let that get to me. I was like, I intrinsically want to start my blog. I think I want to share my thoughts and ideas with people online. I want to develop my writing, and I think a blog and writing online is a great place to do that. And it may lead to some interesting opportunities down the line. But like starting that blog was probably the single most best decision I made last year. And so whatever you want to do in life, there's probably someone already doing it. But like, as I say, it just doesn't, you can't guarantee it's going to lead anywhere, but it just doesn't matter. Like you've just got to go for it. Like, did you find something similar with the podcast as well?
100%. I mean, the issue is it's like people always sitting there thinking, what are other people going to say? Or they're sitting thinking, what are other people going to think? When really, if you really want to do anything, you have to have such tunnel vision and focus just on yourself to be able to do it. Like for me, with the podcast, I had so many people say, why the hell would you want to start a podcast? First of all, there's tons of podcasts out there, way bigger than mine. There's Joe Rogan's, there's all sorts, there's Steven Bartlett's, there's all sorts of podcasts out there already. Why would you want to start your own? But the fact is, if you think in that way, then again, you're not opening yourself up to the possibility, and you're not opening yourself up to the opportunity. Look, this podcast isn't a massive one, but I sure as hell have gained so much value from it, from ways I didn't even realize would happen. As I said earlier, I've literally, my best friend, I've made my best friend through the podcast. That's crazy. He's living in my town right now. I've met so many awesome people, had so many awesome opportunities, stuff which has even led into my freelance work as well as a video and podcast producer, so just through sitting down, talking to people and sort of articulating my thoughts and what I'm thinking about or doing or practicing in my own self-development, it's just opened so many new opportunities to me. Like you said earlier about how your writing sort of helps you to find little bit more clarity and focus with who you are and what you're doing. It's the same with me sitting down and talking to a mic, and planning and structuring out my episodes. If let's say I'm doing an episode on discomfort, I will sit down and I will list all the points I want to talk through. And it's kind of like that thing. It's like that saying, you learn something once when you read it, you learn something twice when you teach it. It's the same with your writing. It's the same with my podcast. If you just start these things, and it opens you up to such a big opportunity of learning, of new experiences, of new friends, of new work, new opportunities, everything,
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's just about starting and like just going for it, and just believing that you can increase your own odds of good things happening. And you get all of that just by starting.
100%. And it's just that little bit of discomfort that you've got to overcome, just that little bit of discomfort. And this is something I talk about a lot on the podcast, and something I'm a big advocate for myself, is actually seeking discomfort and getting yourself out of your comfort zone on purpose, Wim Hof style, in a cold shower. Or what I've been doing recently is actually jumping in the freezing cold sea down on the south coast of England. And this is in the summer as well. So this is as good as it gets. It's going to get freezing in the winter, which I'm not sure I'm looking forward to or not. But I know cold showers is something which you've been getting yourself involved with as well recently. So you're just getting started, if I'm right in saying that. So why have you decided to pick up cold showers?
Yeah, so I cold shower like daily, every single day at the minute. And it's like a fairly new thing. I guess I've been doing it like around a month now. And I think it's like unbelievable. I mean, I do it for all kinds of reasons. There are kind of health, muscle, longevity reasons. But the key reason why I do it is to build discipline. And everyone's out there searching for motivation and inspiration, and even to the point of like building habits. But I don't think it means anything without discipline. And it's a really hard discipline. It's about how can you do something even when you don't want to do it?
Mm.
You're sat there in the warm shower and then you have to turn it cold. And you've got to be pretty disciplined to be in that kind of level of discomfort. But as I say, it's like hugely beneficial because every single day I do it, and it builds this like mental muscle, I guess, of like I am disciplined. And it also puts me in a really great mindset for the day. This is the first thing I do in the morning. And then if I can do the cold shower, I can do everything in the day. If I'm able to put myself through that level of discomfort and pain, then I'm certainly able to deal with what the day is going to throw at me. And so I know that like 1 minute in the morning is really shaping the whole trajectory of the day. And as I say, every single day without fail. And it's so easy to do. Like it takes 1 minute, right? And so it's not like, I don't know, like going to the gym and doing an hour session every day. That's quite time consuming. It's 1 minute. You're already having a shower. Just make it cold for a minute.
Yeah.
And yeah, as I say, like it's great for all kinds of health and longevity reasons, plus building discipline, plus getting your head in that best space possible to tackle the day.
That's why I'm such a big advocate for like morning routines as well. I kind of combine the both. First thing I do in the morning, I jump up and I jump in the sea. If I don't do that, I'll probably exercise, I'll go out for a run or something. But if you can, like you said, if you can do that difficult thing first thing in the morning, it sets the bar for the rest of the day. You've already cleared that bar. You can do it because you've just done it, right? And every task following that, chances are, is going to be easier. So the rest of the day is just like it's a nice little slope down, And as a result of that, you pick up all these little tasks underneath, or, whether it be the hardest task you've got to do at work or whatever, whether it be, you've got to, I don't know, do whatever you have to do with your day, do some exercise or something. You just sort of like slide down nicely following that because it builds up such a mental toughness and like you say, a discipline. Because it's getting familiar with the hard and the difficult and that sort of thing, and that's just one of the benefits. There's tons of benefits. I was actually watching a Wim Hof documentary last night, actually, which is funny now we're talking about this, and they were listing off all the benefits of cold exposure and cold therapy and that kind of thing. And there's like the immune system thing. There's it's fat burning. Again, it's hard. It's the discipline. It's good for your mental health. It's good for mental clarity. There's so many different benefits and such that there's really no reason not to do it. No reason not to do it. So discipline. How do you start to build up that discipline, Matt? When you're sat in that warm shower and you're feeling all cozy and stuff in the mornings, how do you get yourself to actually go turn that handle round and switch it back to cold? How do you stay disciplined like that?
Yeah, I think it's about, in a way, making it easy. As in, if I had to get up every day and like, I don't know, like go to the gym for an hour, like that's adding a lot more friction to staying disciplined. Like if I want to do that every single day, that's pretty hard for me to do. It takes up an hour, got to go to the gym, like all of that kind of stuff. But as I say, I'm in the shower anyway. All I have to do is turn one button for 1 minute. Like that is as easy as I can get it. And that discipline, like, because I think 30 years ago or so, there was this whole thing around making your bed. And like making your bed was that like, if you can do that, then you can like tackle the day. I don't know. For me, it doesn't cut it. But like the cold shower thing, I just find is that super easy 1 minute thing that you can do. So yeah, I think like reduce the friction. And as I say, you get into the habit of doing it. You do it like for a week or two and you go, wow, this is really changing my whole day just from this 1 minute. Like as much as it's painful and discomfort and all of that, I know that this is going to help me out in what I want to do for the rest of the day. So it becomes much easier the more you understand how it's impacting you and how much it's positively impacting your life. That 1 minute in a cold shower suddenly seems easy. So I guess I'm actually probably going to have to turn it up and find some more discomfort, basically. Find somewhere else to build discipline as I continue on this journey.
Yeah, you have to be jumping into the sea or jumping in a lake or whatever you got near you. I don't know if you've got anything like that, but maybe a bath, cold ice bath or something, little tank that you can jump in. But yeah, I mean, discipline is it's such like a muscle that you can train. Just that small habit, just that 1 minute every day of just turning it on cold. You really start to build up the strength of that muscle, the strength of that discipline. And the more you do it and the more that you do these little tasks, the more disciplined you get and the easier they get, I mean, look, cold showers, that doesn't get any easier. Jumping in the sea doesn't get any easier. It doesn't get any warmer for sure. It doesn't get any more comfortable. But the more that you build up that discipline, it does kind of get easier in a way. Not the task itself, but you become a much more tougher person, a much more mentally stronger person. And then you get through that, you get through that.
Yeah, no, 100%. And the thing is that those things, like, as I say, like, actually spending 1 minute under the shower, under cold water, is easy in the sense that, as I say, there's not really loads of friction. You're literally turning a button.
Yeah.
And but the problem is that those things that are easy to do are also easy not to do. And so as much as it's like, yeah, as I say, everything in life, if you can get those easy things right, then actually that leads to huge benefits. So yeah, just because it's easy to do doesn't mean that it's easy to do.
It's just that little subtle change. There's that tiny little subtle change of just that button. That's all it is. But it's ultimately all of these small actions that add up to become the person that you are. It's easy to ignore the button. It's equally easy to press it. So which choice are you going to make? Just these little subtle changes, because every action you take it's that quote from Atomic Habits by James Clear. It's every action you take is a vote towards the type of person you want to become. Honestly, let me tell you, that quote carries me through my workouts. It carries me off the sofa when I need to get up off my arse and go to the gym. I just think, what kind of person, the person that I want to become, what would they choose? What would they do? Because you have to become that person. If you want to get fit and become healthy, you have to be a fit and healthy person. You have to adopt their mindset and their identity to be able to actually go ahead and do these things. What would one tough motherfucker do in that shower when they're choosing between pressing the button or not? They're going to press the button. It's these subtle little changes in your lives that ultimately add up so much and change who you are, Yeah,
no, 100%. Yeah. And like, as I say, it starts off with something really small, like cold shower, but as it changes everything. So the best advice is to literally just go like tomorrow and start this like small discipline trick and build it up over time. And yeah, you'll love yourself for it in the end.
100%, man. 100%. Honestly, cold showers so underrated. I love them. They've become a bit of a cliche in the self-development space, but I'm a massive advocate, so I love them. So, Matt, honestly, thank you so much for joining me for the episode. I've just got one more question just to round it off. It's always a little bit of fun, this one. I actually started off just asking it for fun, but now it's almost become a little bit more of a serious question, to be fair. I get some really good answers from this, so I'm intrigued to hear what your answer is. It's a super subjective question, super cliche, but it's always a lot of fun to ask. Matt, I want to ask you, what is your meaning of life?
Yeah, I mean, big question. I think for me, like, when I was like younger, going through school, even in the kind of corporate world, I was always trying to be a particular type of person, trying to be successful, be happy, be rich, be just always a certain type of person. But from all of my like self-reflection, introspection, questioning everything, throughout all of my mental battles, I've realized that all I need to be is myself. And the closer I've become to like who I actually am, the like more intrinsically motivated, uncaring, unfiltered version of who I am, the happier, more fulfilled, more content I feel like I am. And so what do I think the meaning of life is? Well, I think we're all on this continuing, never-ending journey of becoming who we really are.
That's awesome, man. It's such a good answer. I feel like so many people are kind of trapped in that high school mentality where they're sort of thinking, I've got to be someone else or be something. I've got to be one of the popular kids to be popular, And really, where all the confidence comes from, where all the joy comes from, and the happiness and the content and the fulfillment, all of that, all of the opportunity and success that you want in your life, it all comes from within. It all comes from what the hell's in here, what's in your heart, who you are to your core, and who you really are. And I think that answer right there is such a good answer to that question, because I think if people can get a little bit closer to who they really are, and become that and follow that journey, that self-development journey towards them, I think that's an awesome path, and I think they're on the path to greatness. So listen, Matt, thank you so much for joining me for this episode. It's been so good. I love these episodes, man. And I love chatting to you. As I said at the start of the episode, it's just always a fun and interesting and meaningful conversation when I'm with you. So honestly, mate, I want to say thank you so much for joining me today. It's been so good.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. It's honestly been such a pleasure to chat.
Yeah, awesome stuff, man. So where can we sort of find you online in terms of social media? Is there anything you just want to give out to the listeners today to get in touch with you, anything like that?
Yeah, sure. So I'm on all the socials, Instagram, Twitter, and my website is www.mattswain.co.uk, and that has my blog, my newsletter, my consulting stuff. And yeah, reach out and we can have a chat or message. So yeah.
Awesome stuff, man. Love it. Love it. Thank you again for joining me, man. It's been so good.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
So there you go. That's the end of the show. If you enjoyed, make sure to subscribe on your podcasting app of choice so you can download and listen as each episode is released. If this episode helped you in any way, tell your friends, tell your family, maybe even leave a cheeky review on Apple Podcasts. It really helps the show. But that's all for now. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next episode, released shortly. Take care.